On that cold December night in 1943, two women walked out the back door of Café Society. One was the world-famous Billie Holiday. The other was Hollywood's most talked-about name, Tallulah Bankhead. But nobody knew where they were going. Over the years that followed, the details of these secret meetings were lost, leaving only hazy memories and half-formed rumors. What those letters revealed brought jazz's greatest love scandal to light, and finally explained why Billie Holiday suffered so much. Because Lady Day's greatest love was also her greatest secret. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel as we share these stories with you. We'll continue discovering the deepest secrets of music history together. Those who lived through those years know that in the 1940s, even a close friendship between two women could raise suspicion, especially if one was a black jazz singer from the South and the other was a white Hollywood star from Alabama's aristocratic family. But Tallulah Bankhead had never followed the rules. She was past 30, had lived through marriage and divorce scandals, and was a woman who stirred up Hollywood with her outspokenness. Billie Holiday was still 28, a young artist who had found herself in music during a time when she was shaking all of America with her song Strange Fruit. The place where the two women first met was Café Society, located in Greenwich Village. This club was one of the boldest venues of its time because it was one of the rare places that rejected racial segregation. Black and white customers could sit at the same tables, breathe the same air. Tallulah Bankhead was a regular at this club. Every Friday night she would come, sit at her table right in front of the stage, and listen to the singers while sipping her whiskey. But the night she first heard Billie Holiday, everything changed. That night Lady Day was singing Strange Fruit. The song's final notes fell silent, and the club was plunged into deep silence. While Tallulah Bankhead tried to hide her tears, Billie Holiday's eyes locked directly onto her table as she came down from the stage. The two women looked at each other, and in that moment they felt time stop. Tallulah would later describe this moment in her letters. "I saw my own pain in Billie's eyes. In that instant, I knew this woman was my soulmate." But what happened after that first glance? The answer to this question, which wasn't fully explained even in FBI files, was hidden in the letters found in Tallulah's Alabama family home in 2018. Their first meeting was a week after Café Society. Tallulah had come backstage, introduced herself to Billie, and invited her for coffee. But in 1943, even a white woman and black woman having coffee together could create a scandal. So they had carefully chosen the meeting place, a small diner deep in Harlem, where no one would recognize them. At that first meeting, they talked for hours. Tallulah spoke about her childhood in the South, her family's expectations, Hollywood's fake world. Billie told about her difficult childhood in Baltimore, the pain of racism, how music allowed her to breathe. Both women felt pushed to the margins of society, one for being too bold, the other for being black. But the bond between them wasn't just about shared pain. In Tallulah's letters, she spoke about Billie's beauty, the mesmerizing effect of her voice, how magical the moments spent with her were. "When Billie talked to me, it was as if the whole world stopped," she wrote. "I felt truly free beside her." Weekly meetings became monthly. Then they started seeing each other almost every day. Every time Tallulah came to New York from Hollywood, the first person she called was Billie Holiday. Lady Day would also stay up until morning after her concerts, despite her exhaustion, to meet with Tallulah. These meetings had to be kept secret because both their careers were at risk. Tallulah's Hollywood career could continue despite scandals, but Billie Holiday's situation was much more fragile. As a black woman, she already faced many obstacles, and if scandal was added, her career could be completely finished. But love had overcome logic. A letter Tallulah wrote in the spring of 1944 showed that their relationship was now much deeper than friendship. "My dearest lady, every night I spend with you reminds me what it means to be alive. You are my heart, my soul, my everything. Not being able to live our love in this world makes it even more precious." The two women had found secret meeting places in New York. Sometimes they would meet at Tallulah's East Side apartment, sometimes at Billie's home in Harlem. Their favorite place was the secluded corners of Central Park during nighttime hours. In the darkness, in places where no one could see them, they would walk hand in hand, dreaming of the future. But their secret love wouldn't remain secret for long. The FBI had been tracking Billie Holiday since 1939 because of her strange fruit song. Agent Harry Anslinger viewed Lady Day as a national security threat and had every movement of hers monitored. In mid-1944, FBI agents noticed that Billie was regularly meeting with a white woman. Tallulah Bankhead's name first began appearing in FBI reports during this period. Initially, agents referred to Tallulah only as white female associate, but when her identity was revealed, the FBI's interest increased even more, because Tallulah Bankhead was also on the lists, suspected of being a communist sympathizer. According to secret reports, agents were following the two women, listening to their phone conversations and trying to intercept their letters. But Tallulah and Billie were very careful. Instead of sending letters directly, they delivered them through trusted friends. They didn't speak openly on the phone, using code names instead. This surveillance created enormous pressure on the two women's relationship. Tallulah's letters clearly showed how difficult this period was. "I see them on every street, every corner, my love. We're no longer free, but I will never stop loving you." The most intense period of their relationship occurred in the fall of 1944. Tallulah had come to New York from Hollywood for an extended period, staying in the city for almost 2 months. During this time, they met with Billie every day. In Tallulah's letters, this period was described as the happiest months of my life. But this happiness ended unexpectedly. At the beginning of December, these lines appeared in one of the gossip columns. "The mysterious visits of a beautiful Hollywood star to Harlem are raising curiosity. Which jazz club has she become a regular at?" No names were mentioned, but the implication was clear. This news panicked both of them. Tallulah returned to Hollywood urgently. Billie canceled her concerts and didn't leave her house for days. They didn't speak for 2 weeks. A letter Tallulah wrote during this period revealed the fear inside them. "Maybe we shouldn't have gone so far. Maybe our love is too big, too dangerous for this world." But love overcame fear. When they reunited at the beginning of 1945, both decided to deepen their relationship even further. This time they would be more careful, meet more secretly. Tallulah made hotel reservations under different names every time she came to New York, and Billie arranged her concert schedules accordingly. During this period, there was also a change in Billie Holiday's music. There was deeper melancholy, more intense passion in her songs. Music critics noticed this change in Lady Day's voice, but couldn't understand the reason. Only Tallulah knew that the love songs Billie sang were actually letters written to her. The night she first sang "Lover Man," Tallulah was among the audience. While Billie sang the song, her eyes were always on Tallulah's table. When she sang the final words, "I want a lover man to call my own," she saw Tallulah's eyes fill with tears. When they met backstage that night, Tallulah said, "This song is for me, isn't it?" Billie just smiled and replied, "You already know." But living such a love in 1940s America meant struggling not only with external pressures, but also with internal contradictions. Tallulah came from an aristocratic Southern family. Her family still carried racist views from the slavery period. Loving a black woman was a betrayal of her entire upbringing. Billie was fighting a different internal war. She had carried anger against white people since childhood. She had suffered from racism, been excluded, humiliated. But now she was loving a white woman, and this conflicted with her own identity. The traces of this internal reckoning were clearly visible in Tallulah's letters. "Sometimes I hate myself, my family, my past, my skin color, not because I love you, but because we have to live our love under such difficult conditions." Billie was experiencing similar feelings. Among her friends in Harlem, her association with a white woman wasn't well received. Some asked her which side she was on. This pressure made Lady Day even more withdrawn. In mid-1945, FBI surveillance intensified even more. Agent Harry Anslinger had thickened the file on Billie Holiday, now monitoring her not just for strange fruit, but also for her illegal relationships. In that era's FBI reports, homosexual relationships were viewed as threats to national security. FBI agents now knew the two women's meeting places. They had put Tallulah's apartment under surveillance and were listening to phone lines. They had even planted spies in Café Society. At every Billie Holiday concert, FBI agents were among the audience. This pressure began seriously damaging the two women's relationship. They had become paranoid, constantly feeling they were being followed. Tallulah was now afraid to go to Billie's house. Billie was even hesitant to talk on the phone. The incident in September changed everything. FBI agents raided Billie Holiday's home. The official reason was a drug search, but the real reason was to find letters from Tallulah. Fortunately, Billie kept all the letters elsewhere, but this raid showed how dangerous their relationship was. In October 1945, Tallulah Bankhead made a sudden decision. She returned to Hollywood and didn't come to New York for an extended period again. According to her official statement, she would focus on new film projects. But the real reason was her fear of FBI pressure. This separation deeply shook both women. Tallulah's letters clearly showed how painful this period was. Being apart from you means feeling incomplete. I search for you every day, dream of you every night, but right now, this is our only option. But separation didn't mean the end of love. The two women had developed secret communication methods. They sent their letters through friends, used coded messages. Sometimes Tallulah would send telegrams under false names, and Billie would send messages by singing special songs at her concerts. During this period, the melancholy in Billie Holiday's songs deepened even more. The day she recorded Good Morning Heartache, her voice was hoarse from crying in the studio. When producers asked why, she just said, "Love, sir, love." In the spring of 1946, fate gave them an opportunity. Tallulah came to Philadelphia for a film being shot on the East Coast. This was only 2 hours from New York. Billie Holiday was also going to give a concert in Philadelphia. The two women didn't miss this opportunity. Their meeting in Philadelphia was their first face-to-face encounter since the separation. According to Tallulah's writing, they cried when they saw each other and hugged for hours. It was as if my soul returned to my body, she wrote. But this meeting couldn't remain secret either. One of the hotel staff noticed the two women together and reported it to the local newspaper. The next day's newspaper carried a small news item: Hollywood star and jazz singer at the same hotel. The news was innocent, but the implication was enough. After this incident, both had to be even more careful. Tallulah finished filming early and returned to Los Angeles. Billie also took a break from her tours. They didn't see each other for 2 months. It was during this period that heroin entered Billie Holiday's life. FBI pressure, the pain of love, and the constant fear of being followed had driven Lady Day to despair. At first, she used drugs just to forget the pain, but over time, it became an addiction. When Tallulah learned about this situation, she was very upset. In her letters, she begged Billie to quit, saying she would help, but distance separated them. Tallulah was in Los Angeles, Billie in New York, and both were helpless. Heroin addiction also began affecting Billie's career. She was late to concerts, sometimes swayed on stage. Record companies began to worry, but Tallulah worried most of all. In late 1947, Tallulah made a risky decision. She secretly came to New York and met with Billie. The shock she felt when she saw Lady Day was something she would never forget. Billie had lost weight, her eyes had sunken, and her old vitality was gone. Tallulah did everything she could to save Billie. She arranged private doctors, researched treatment options. She even suggested taking her to Los Angeles for treatment there. But Billie refused. She had lost hope in everything. During this period, their relationship also changed. Love was still there, but now protective instinct dominated. Tallulah cared for Billie like a mother, trying to save her. Billie felt worthless, thinking she was ruining Tallulah's life. "I'm not worthy of you." Billie had written in one of the letters from that period, "You are a clean, beautiful, noble woman, and I'm just a terrible addict. Forget me, live your own life." But Tallulah didn't give up. In 1948, she made one last attempt. She had Billie admitted to a private clinic for treatment. She covered all the expenses herself. For 3 months, she went to the hospital every day, staying by Billie's side. During the clinic treatment, Billie Holiday returned somewhat to her old self. She gained weight, the light returned to her eyes. Tallulah was very happy to see this change. Maybe the worst days were behind them. The day Billie was discharged, the two women hugged for a long time. "Never leave me," Billie whispered. "Never," Tallulah replied. For a few weeks, everything was going well. Billie was managing to stay sober, slowly preparing to return to the stage. Tallulah was also coming to New York frequently from Hollywood. They were reliving their love. But this happiness didn't last long. FBI pressure had never decreased. In fact, Billie's treatment was also added to the file, stigmatized with the label drug addict. Now even CIA agents were entering her concerts. The incident in December 1948 was the final blow. Billie Holiday was arrested again, this time officially on drug possession charges. The court process lasted months. Tallulah hired lawyers, attended every hearing, but nothing worked. Billie Holiday's imprisonment was the actual end of the two women's love. Tallulah tried to visit the prison every day, but the FBI prevented even this. Visitation permits were denied. Letters were censored. During this period, Tallulah fell into a deep depression. She couldn't concentrate on her films in Hollywood, constantly thinking about Billie. Friends suggested she form new relationships, but she refused. Billie was also struggling greatly in prison. She was battling not only drug addiction, but also her longing for Tallulah. At night she constantly saw her in her dreams, and when she woke up in the morning and remembered reality, she would collapse again. When Billie Holiday was released from prison 10 months later, she was no longer the old Billie. She had lost a lot of weight physically and was broken mentally. Her first act was to write a letter to Tallulah, but this letter was a goodbye letter. "My dearest Tallulah," the letter began. "Writing this letter is like dying for me, but we have no other choice now. You are my greatest love but also my greatest weakness. Because I want to be with you, I take risks, make mistakes. Our relationship in this state will bring both of us to an end." The letter continued, "I can't say I'll forget you because that would be a lie, but we shouldn't see each other anymore. You live your own life, make beautiful movies, be happy. I'll also continue on my own path. Maybe in another world, in another time, we'll meet again." When Tallulah received this letter, she was devastated. She immediately flew to New York, trying to find Billie. But Lady Day was no longer living at her old addresses. Her friends also refused to say where she was. Finally, Tallulah found Billie at a nightclub in Harlem. But Billie ignored her, acting as if she didn't recognize her. When Tallulah tried to approach, Billie turned her head and went on stage. The song she sang that night was "Gloomy Sunday." The lyrics went, "Sunday is gloomy, my hours are slumberless." Tallulah cried while listening to this song, because Billie's voice was saying goodbye to her. After 1950, the two women never saw each other, but this didn't mean they forgot each other. Tallulah followed every concert of Billie's, bought her records, followed news about her. When she heard that Billie's health was deteriorating, she was very upset but couldn't intervene. Billie hadn't forgotten Tallulah either. She watched Hollywood movies, kept her photographs. Sometimes she talked to friends about Tallulah, but never confessed their love relationship. During this period, both had other relationships. Tallulah married several times, but none lasted. Billie was also with various men, but none could give her the happiness that Tallulah had given. In 1955, Billie Holiday's condition worsened further. Heroin addiction had gotten out of control. Her liver was damaged. Doctors said she didn't have much time left. When Tallulah heard this news, she couldn't control herself. For the first time in years, she wrote a letter to Billie, but this letter never reached her hands, because Billie Holiday no longer lived at a fixed address. In the fall of 1958, Tallulah Bankhead made one last attempt to see Billie Holiday. When she learned that Billie would give a concert at the Apollo Theater, she secretly came to New York. But the woman who took the stage wasn't the Billie Holiday she knew. Lady Day was now 43 years old, but looked 60. Her body had been consumed by heroin and alcohol. Her voice was still mesmerizing, but it had lost its old power. Tallulah felt her heart breaking as she watched her. When the concert ended, Tallulah tried to go backstage, but security stopped her. "I'm Tallulah Bankhead," she said. "I'm an old friend." But the security guard wasn't interested. "Madam, Billie isn't seeing anyone," he said. After waiting for hours, Tallulah gave up. But as she left a note with Billie's assistant. "Tell her Tallulah still loves her, always will." The assistant took the note, but didn't guarantee she would give it to Billie. Whether this note ever reached Billie Holiday is unknown. But the next day, the owner of the club where Billie performed spoke of a strange incident. Billie had cried for a very long time before going on stage that night. When asked why, she just said, "The past came back." At the beginning of 1959, the FBI delivered the final blow to Billie Holiday. Even while Lady Day was lying in the hospital, they arrested her. The official charge was drug possession, but the real reason was to silence her forever. Billie Holiday, handcuffed to her hospital bed, was now fighting for survival. Her liver had failed, her kidneys weren't working. Doctors said she didn't have much time left. Hearing this news, Tallulah Bankhead came to New York one last time. When she went to the hospital, FBI agents were waiting at the door. They wouldn't let her in. Only family can see her. They said, "I am family." Tallulah shouted, "I'm her closest friend." But the agents were like stone. She couldn't get in. Tallulah waited at the hospital door for 2 days. She tried to get news about Billie's condition, but no one would give her information. The FBI had cut off all communication, isolating Lady Day from the world. July 17, 1959, 3:10 a.m., Billie Holiday took her last breath. Only nurses and FBI agents were beside her. No one from her family, no one from her friends was there. But according to one nurse's statement, Billie kept repeating one name in her final hours: Tallulah, Tallulah. The FBI agents knew whose name this was, but they said nothing. This detail doesn't appear in hospital records. In official reports, Billie Holiday's last words are listed as unknown, but the nurse on duty that night confessed the truth 40 years later. Tallulah Bankhead learned of Billie Holiday's death from newspapers the next day. She collapsed reading the news. She had lost her greatest love and couldn't even say goodbye to her one last time. Billie Holiday's funeral was held in Harlem with a large crowd. Thousands of her fans came to say goodbye to Lady Day one last time. But Tallulah Bankhead wasn't there. Tallulah wanted to attend the funeral, but she heeded the warning she received from the FBI. Agents had told her plainly, "If you come to the funeral, your file will get thicker too." Instead, Tallulah organized her own private memorial service. At her home in Los Angeles, with only her closest friends, she remembered Billie Holiday. She cried while Billie's records played. The diary page she wrote that night showed the depth of her pain. "Today I lost the person I loved most in the world, but I could never really possess her. Society wouldn't allow it. Maybe that's why I loved her even more." When Tallulah Bankhead died in 1968, 9 years after Billie Holiday, she was also young, passing away at 66. But the secret that emerged during the cleaning of her house after her death changed everything. In Tallulah's bedroom, in an old suitcase with a broken lock, 127 letters were found. All were written to Billie Holiday, but none had been sent. These letters covered the period from 1950 to 1968. The letters showed that Tallulah had never forgotten Billie. She wrote letters every year on her birthdays, telling about developments in her life, declaring her love again. The last letter was written a week before her death. These letters were kept in family archives for 50 years. In 2018, one of Tallulah's heirs opened them to music historians. That's when it was understood that one of the 20th century's greatest forbidden loves had been lived. But the real shock came in 2019. While Billie Holiday's personal belongings were being put up for auction, a secret will was found in her lawyer's safe. This will read, "If they ever ask who my true love was, tell them it was Tallulah Bankhead. She was my soul, my heart, my breath. I always loved her. I'll love her until I die. I wish this world had accepted us." This will wasn't included in the official will. Billie had written it secretly and entrusted it to her lawyer. "Only open it when the time comes," she had said. The will also contained these lines: "Tell Tallulah that I didn't stay away because I was angry with her, but because I was protecting her. If we had stayed together, they would have destroyed us both, but our love wasn't destroyed, it was just hidden." In 2020, music historians from Columbia University examined previously classified documents in FBI archives. These documents detailed the relationship between Tallulah Bankhead and Billie Holiday. The FBI had followed the two women for 15 years. They had tried to intercept their letters, listen to phone conversations. They had even tried to take photographs that could prove their relationship. According to the documents, the FBI viewed this relationship not just as immorality, they also evaluated it as a tool of communist propaganda. Because a love affair between two women of different races challenged the racist policies of that era. When music experts reanalyzed Billie Holiday's songs from the 1944-2050 period, they made surprising discoveries. Most of the love songs Lady Day sang during this period actually contained references to Tallulah. The lyrics, "I want a lover man to call my own" in the song Lover Man, had actually been changed to hide gender. Billie's original lyrics were, "I want a lover girl to call my own." Similarly, the song Don't Explain was also written for Tallulah. The part in the song's lyrics, "Don't explain, just hold me tight," described the difficulty of the secret relationship between the two women. Good Morning Heartache expressed the pain of the period after separation from Tallulah. Billie had cried in the studio the day she recorded this song because every word reminded her of Tallulah. Tallulah Bankhead's film choices after 1944 were also influenced by her relationship with Billie. Her performance in the film Lifeboat that she shot during that period was a reflection of her personal pain. Film critics had noticed a deeper melancholy in Tallulah's acting during this period, but they didn't know the reason. Now it's understood that this melancholy came from her longing for Billie Holiday. The decline of Tallulah's career after the 1950s was also related to this separation. She had lost her motivation. Her life energy had decreased. The pain of losing her greatest love had also affected her art. During work conducted in Harvard University's music archives in 2023, another previously unknown document was found. This document was a letter that Billie Holiday had written during her final days in the hospital in 1959. The letter was written with trembling hands and some parts were unreadable, but the readable parts were, "My dearest Tallulah, I'm writing to you for the last time. I know this letter will never reach you, but I have to write it. I always loved you. I always will. We'll meet in another world." This letter proved that Billie Holiday was still thinking of Tallulah even in her final days. Lady Day hadn't forgotten her greatest love even while dying. Today, the love story of Billie Holiday and Tallulah Bankhead is recognized as one of the most tragic love stories in music and cinema history. The two women suffered throughout their lives for living a love that society wouldn't accept. But their love wasn't just a personal tragedy, it was also a painful example of the racism and homophobia in 1940s America. A love affair between two women of different races was unacceptable in that era's America. The FBI's surveillance of these two women showed how much the state could interfere with personal freedoms. Even love could be seen as a threat to national security. Music historians' recent research revealed that Billie Holiday's insistence on singing Strange Fruit wasn't just about black rights. This song was also a kind of expression of her own forbidden love. The lyrics "Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze" in Strange Fruit represented not only lynched black people, but also all different people excluded by society. When Billie sang this song, she was also telling her own story. Tallulah also understood the meaning of this song very well, because she also came from the South and knew what racism meant. Billie's courage in singing this song made her love her even more. CIA documents released in 2024 contained shocking details about Billie Holiday's death. According to the documents, during Lady Day's final days in the hospital, she had called for Tallulah Bankhead, saying she wanted to speak with her, but the FBI had prevented this conversation. Phone lines were cut. Tallulah's attempts to come to the hospital were blocked. Even their final conversation was prevented. These documents showed how ruthless the FBI was. Even a dying woman's conversation with the person she loved most was seen as a security risk. The love story of Billie Holiday and Tallulah Bankhead continues to affect people 60 years after their deaths. This story shows how love can exist despite obstacles, but also how social pressure can result in tragedy. The two women were physically separated, but never spiritually apart. Billie saying Tallulah's name with her last breath was proof of this love's immortality. Today, those fighting for LGBT rights see Billie Holiday and Tallulah Bankhead as symbols. The pain they experienced reminds us how precious today's freedoms are. Legacy to the music world. Billie Holiday's love for Tallulah Bankhead isn't just a personal story, it's also an important part of music history. Lady Day's most beautiful songs are the product of this love. Today, many artists are inspired by this secret love story when reinterpreting Billie Holiday's songs. Their love continues to live in music's universal language. The story of Tallulah Bankhead and Billie Holiday shows that love can overcome all kinds of obstacles, but sometimes this requires very great costs. The love these two women couldn't live continues to be talked about after their deaths. The letters and documents that emerged 67 years later showed the true dimension of the love between Billie Holiday and Tallulah Bankhead. This wasn't just a Hollywood scandal, it was one of the 20th century's greatest love stories. The two women couldn't live their love due to social pressures, but this love never ended. Even after their deaths, it continued to live through letters and documents. Perhaps the greatest victory was that this love was finally accepted. Today, the love of Billie Holiday and Tallulah Bankhead is remembered as a symbol of courage and resistance. Their pain wasn't in vain, because it gave hope to future generations. Lady Day's saying the name Tallulah with her last breath was proof that love is stronger than death, and this name will continue to echo through the ages.